Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. Today we'll be talking a lot about Jin, and this is because of The Astronaut, which was just released, and his promotions. So first, the fact that when I saw the list of stories I was going to talk about today, how they all had to do with Jin, and it just reminded me of the running joke on Run BTS about how they would often use the name Kim Seukjin as a team name. So if you haven't seen it, this happens in multiple episodes. I think at first it was just Jin being funny and like fake egotistical to name the team after himself. But it seemed like over time they started to believe it was a lucky team name since the team Kim Seukjin would win a lot. So I thought that was pretty funny. Definitely one of the funny running jokes on Run BTS. So The Astronaut was released on October 27th or 28th, depending where you are. So I love this song, and as I announced before, this is meant to be a solo song for Jin, and he had worked with Coldplay on this, and we get to hear a little bit more about that when he did his Weverse Live. When I listen to it, I can definitely hear the Coldplay fingerprints all over it, but it also fits in really well with all of the Jin solo songs. His songs tend to have the pattern, like they're very ballad and they have a lot of emotion in them, so I think it fits in really well with them. I don't know if Chris Martin did that on purpose or that's how he writes, but I think Jin sounds really good in it. His voice always sounds amazing, and the style of it is in his wheelhouse. Although he explains later he sang a little bit differently than he normally does, although I don't know what exactly he means by that. I'm sure it's like a technique thing where he tried to sing according to the guide he received from Chris Martin. So that's very interesting that he changed his style up a little bit. I was trying to hear where the Max Martin influence is. I was really interested to hear like what he would be contributing to this song. I don't know if I really hear his influence very much, so I think maybe he was just consulted on the song structure, or maybe he just changed things very minimally, from what Chris Martin put together. So from the way Jin described the whole process, it was like he approached Chris Martin about it. Chris Martin was writing it, and Jin ends up rewriting some of the lyrics, maybe to like wording that he would prefer, and parts of it were like changed into Korean lyrics. And I did also notice that The Astronaut really fits in with the theme of Coldplay's last album. If you remember, it's called Music of the Spheres, and it has a very like planetary space kind of a theme. And they also had worked on My Universe probably all during this time. So, very space and universe kind of themes for Coldplay lately. So very interesting. When groups write songs for a new album, they usually write a lot more songs than they end up using. So I almost wonder if they had The Astronaut just kind of an unfinished song that they didn't end up using for their album, but maybe they felt like it fit well with what Jin was looking for when he asked them for help with this solo song. And maybe they just need to change some of the lyrics so that, it's referencing ARMY in it, and, make some tweaks here and there. So, yeah, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just very interesting how it all came about. I know, if you're a group, you don't just have like random songs lying around that just have nothing to do with anything else you've written, because they're writing for an album, and so a lot of them are going to be a very similar style or similar theme. And I think this really works out well for what Jin was looking for, and I think he fits him perfectly. So I think the song turned out really well. I put it in my playlist immediately, and this is definitely something that has tons of repeat value. I think the lyrics are very emotional and touching, and I think all of ARMY will really enjoy it and feel sad probably when they listen to it, because this is going to be his message to us before he leaves for the military, which should be happening like any day now. There was also an MV that was released, and I saw that it was directed by Lumpins, and he was the director for many of BTS's previous videos like Fake Love and DNA and, other prominent videos. And I think he did a really great job directing this, because it's almost a short movie from start to finish. And you understand a whole storyline of what happened, and they don't even have dialogue. So I think they did a really great job conveying what was happening just with facial expressions and gestures and just setting the scene really well. So I think they did a good job with the storytelling of it. And with the song, it says he's the astronaut. So, before you even see the MV, you'd think, okay, Jin's an astronaut. He's from Earth, right? And he's gonna, go somewhere, go on a journey. At least that's what we had thought, just based on the teaser that showed, his little cartoon just traveling around in space. So you think, okay, yeah, he's a human astronaut and he's gonna go explore. And I think you realize eventually the whole thing is a metaphor for him leaving for the military. He's gonna be away on a journey for a little while, and we won't see him. ARMY won't see him, and he's gonna get the job done and then come back. And this is kind of the tribute to ARMY, about he's trying to make us feel better about the whole thing. So I think it's really great that the layers that are in this video and the song. So you have the metaphor there for it's really about him. But in the MV, he has the storyline of he is an astronaut, and it starts out where you see that he's landed somewhere and his spaceship is in flames. So he must have crashed and he can't use his spaceship at that moment. And so then you see that he is, just hanging around, and he's in a house, and you kind of realize okay, that must mean he's and the house is on Earth. It looks like a very expensive neighborhood on Earth and a big house. So you realize, okay, maybe he's not a human. He just came to Earth. So that would mean that he's actually an alien in this. And his acting is so good and subtle that you can see that that's what they're trying to tell us, because he doesn't seem totally human. He just has kind of limited expressions, and his behavior, he's kind of stiff. And as an alien, his outfit, he's wearing a suit, but then it's there's little things about it that are kind of off, okay, the length of the pants. And, that's the kind of thing that would happen with an alien. They're not going to be able to replicate the style here exactly. And the same thing with facial expressions. They're not going to have the same exact reactions that humans do, but they try to mimic that. So I think with his acting, that really comes across, that he's just trying to fit in with humans. And I think that was a pretty cool twist, is the fact that, okay, Jin's not human. He's actually an alien astronaut that came here. And his outfit is, his main outfit, I think, is he has that black suit that has the shorter pants. And it's giving me the Beatles, especially with the way his hair is very long right now. And it's also giving me Men in Black. So I think that's a good reference, because that's a movie where the main characters there deal with aliens a lot. So I think that is kind of a reference to that, which makes sense with this MV. And his outfit also reminds me of a modern version of the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still from 2008, which is a movie starring Keanu Reeves, and it's the same thing. He's an alien. He's wearing that kind of an outfit, and he comes to Earth and is talking to the humans. And so I think, whoever put together this MV and had these ideas, they seem to be, they're probably a movie buff, because I feel like has to be intentional, the fact that they're referencing certain things, other movies that have to do with aliens. And if you watch, I didn't watch the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, but I know from clips that there's another aspect of it that's very similar to this MV. And so I do think it's an homage, because there's like one character there who is an alien, and I don't know when he came to Earth, but he showed up and he decided to stay for a while because he really likes humans and like got to know them and understand them. So that's very similar to what happens in this MV. Yeah, so I would be very surprised, but then I think that's pretty cool, because I wouldn't expect Koreans to know, all of these American movies, and, some of them may not be that famous if you're from Korea. So I think that's pretty genius if those are some things that they referenced and included on purpose. Yeah, I think it's really funny, this whole trope about humans who, like, they make movies and they have this story where, okay, the aliens get to know humans and then love them. Like, would that really happen? Like in Star Trek, they make it seem like humans are the center of everything, and like, oh, all the other aliens, they just want to be humans so bad, or they, like, really want to be aligned with them, because humans, they just have everything. They can experience emotions, and they're so great. And it's like, okay, I doubt this would even happen in reality. Like, in reality, probably aliens would think humans are losers. It's like, well, you guys are just like slaves to your emotions all the time. And it's like, you think you're so special, but you're really not. And that's kind of what I think. It's like, I'm sure every alien species thinks they're the best. So this is just a conceit that humans have. And we always seem to make movies where it's like, okay, the aliens love humans, or they want to be humans. It's like the way Data on Star Trek The Next Generation. It's like, oh, everybody wants to be human. I really appreciated Jin's acting in this, because he did seem very much like an alien who was trying to be human. He's trying to fit in, and it shows that he does bond with humans. There's the his little girl neighbor who he teaches her to ride a bike. I'm sure he feels like invested in her life now that he's been on Earth for however long. Must have not been more than like a year or something, because the girl looked pretty young. So obviously he got to know her long enough to like be friends with her and emotionally bond and like teach her how to ride a bike. So I think I could see the whole like, Jin acting resume, and why people think he's so good. But I've seen just what I've seen from the MVs, so I could tell that he has a lot of range of emotion there. And his running even looks kind of alien. I don't know if that was on purpose, but it was just like, okay, an alien trying to run would be like trying to use like all their muscles, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna really pump my arms and legs and just look kind of awkward because I'm using everything and to have full motion. But whereas most humans, if they're running, since we all have like terrible posture, or we don't know how to run, or we have like, women wear high heels, so their balance is off to begin with. Like, we all don't look right running, probably. So I think he pulled off like looking like an alien running. And I like that they showed, okay, he would smile towards the beginning of the video, but it wasn't like a full smile, and because he's just trying to do what humans do. But by the end of it, he has such a genuine smile, because well, what happens is the ship gets repaired. I guess the light that shines down is the aliens from his own planet. They're fixing his ship, and then he sees that, oh, it's fixed. I guess it's time for me to go. And then he goes up to it, and at the last minute, he's like flashing back to his time on Earth and like hanging out with that little girl. And I think he feels like, this is my home now. I really want to stay. And so he just lets the ship go and then hitches a ride back on a pickup truck. And then you see his like very genuine smile at the very end. And he goes back to his house, and he's happy. So he likes what he chose to do. So that was a story of the astronaut. And I thought it was like such a great video. I was like almost gonna cry at the end of it. So I think they did a great job with that. And I guess Jin had enough time to do some promotions. He traveled to Argentina to perform the song with Coldplay live, and it happens to be their world tour right now. And I guess this was the date that was easiest for Jin to perform live with them. I mean, I don't know what the timing is, but I think this is probably the first concert after the release date. So I guess he decided, I'm going to go, I'll just fly all the way to Argentina and perform this song with them. So I think we won't get to see any other live performance of the astronaut, unfortunately, but at least we got that, because I think it was really well done what they did. And Coldplay, they rehearsed with him, and I don't know at what point in their concert that he performed, but I would think like near the end or something, he kind of popped up. And then Chris Martin had a very nice intro where he talked about about 6 months ago, Jin approached them to help him with a song about how he'd be away from Army for a while, and then they were happy to help and explain about enlistment to their fans, which I guess there's probably a lot of people that still don't know about all that. The fact that Korean males all have mandatory military service. So he mentioned that, and that he helped Jin with this song, and Jin is there to sing it with them. And I think it was really nice to see him together with Coldplay again, and they sounded great together. You could tell they hadn't rehearsed it like too many times. They weren't like 100% like together on certain parts. But I mean, I think this is a song where he probably hasn't performed it that many times after the recording of it. So I mean, I can see how you wouldn't have it done perfectly. And if this was a BTS performance, I'm sure he would have rehearsed it a zillion times before this. But it seems like it all kind of came together like really just close to when it came out. So maybe like October at some point. So I think that was great that HYBE was able to get the video of that concert and made it available right away, so people aren't hunting around for like fan cams and stuff, because that would have been pretty tough to find good footage of it. Although I did see some good videos by people who were there and that recorded it with their phones. So it seemed like a really nice moment, Jin performing with Coldplay in Argentina. I watched the astronaut MV shooting sketch, and it showed him filming on the street in SoCal somewhere with the little girl and all the extras that were there. And this was the time that he traveled to America and filmed this video. Probably took like 1 or 2 days for the MV filming. And in the shoot sketch, we saw that J-Hope came to support Jin. And as far as I know, I don't think J-Hope went to the U.S. I think he showed up to when he was filming other parts of it back in Korea, like the inside the house parts. So I think that's what J-Hope was there for. And he was like trying to understand. He was watching some clips of the MV playing, and he was like, what's going on? Why did you let the little girl go? And then Jin was like explaining the plot of it. So that was cool. Let's see, I watched the jacket shoot sketch as well. It looked like he took pictures that had different concepts, and so we saw the result of that were in all the promotional pictures, where, one was like he looked like, he called it a fierce band outfit, where he was wearing like a black jacket and stuff. And then another look with where he had a sweater and tie on, and the third one where he was wearing like an orange sweater outfit, and some different sets where it had like furniture outside and little planets. So I did find it interesting that he was wearing a wig for some of these pictures. I guess he wanted his hair to be like more wavy or curly or whatever for those pictures. But I mean, his hair is long right now, so I don't know why they couldn't have. Maybe he didn't want a permit or something, but he was wearing a very real looking wig. Like, I wouldn't have guessed it was a wig. It just looked like his hair just was wavy. And then he had Weverse Live right after the song was released, and he had all of those astronaut props. He had balloons and a cake that looked very space themed, and a banner and spaceship stickers. And he says he gave some details about how the song came together. Chris Martin had sent his guide version. He recorded it in August or September, and when he first heard it, Jin thought it sounded like a Coldplay song, and he thought, can I even touch this song? I was like, oh, come on. A Coldplay song is not untouchable, and you're Jin from BTS, so you can definitely measure up to singing a song with Chris Martin, or instead of Chris Martin on a song that he wrote. So I think it's always great, these like comments they make, because you could tell that BTS still don't think of themselves as like gigantic celebrities. They think of themselves as like regular people still. And it's like, okay, am I worthy of singing on a Coldplay song? It's like, yes, you are. So, so he received the guide version, and he wrote more Korean lyrics, or changed some of the words into Korean. And very few people at HYBE worked with him on this, so it's mostly just him and P-Dog. And then they filmed the MV in California. And he also created the little space character Wutio. He wasn't sure like why he did that. I guess to have like, a cute character to go along with the whole astronaut persona. But, Jin is always so creative. He's always making up characters or ideas, and like he came up with RJ. It was probably the most popular BT21 character. So I think that's great. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have another, cartoon character. They can use that for merch, and, looks really cute. You can use it for all kinds of things. So that was pretty smart. And he says he decided to have a physical album for his solo. And he said that he sang the chorus more in Chris Martin's style, which translated for him to being trot mixed with an 80s and 90s voice style. So I don't know exactly what he means by that, but I guess that's what he would say Coldplay style is like. It's like 80s and 90s singing. So then he opened up an album, looked at all the stuff in it with the photo cards and stuff, and he was saying like he spent a lot of time choosing the photos that were going to go in it. And, why don't fans just print out their own photo cards? Yeah, it's like, good question. I don't know. The people want the official ones. They don't want to make their own. So I think that's the reason. And he mentioned that Chris Martin makes cameo in the video as the news anchor. Like, we don't recognize him immediately. Like, I think Jin thought maybe he isn't recognizable, but it's like, you could tell that's Chris Martin with a wig on, and he's being the fake news anchor in the video. And then also in his Weverse Live, he talked about enlistment, and I think it's good that I guess any of them are able to talk about it now, because now that the plan is out, he had said that originally it was going to be B was the last album, and then they were going to enlist, but then Dynamite did very well, and then, they wanted to do Butter and Permission to Dance, and like those songs just kind of came across them. And, then they wanted to do a concert, and then the Permission to Dance concerts were planned. And after that, it was the Grammys, and then they really wanted to perform at that. So it just kind of kept getting delayed because he was going to enlist, after their major group activities were going to be done. So that kept getting postponed a little bit. The way he was talking about it too, he wasn't saying I'm going to go. He was saying they were going to go. So I don't know if they might have a plan that we're going to hear about at some point where a couple of them leave at the same time, or, once he leaves, maybe someone else is going to announce it, not too long after. But yeah, he was trying to tell us that, the plan changed multiple times, and I think it was very tough on them, especially with the government and what they were saying. It's like, okay, what are you guys going to give an exemption, or are you not, or is there some other thing that they're proposing? And all this time they're getting criticized because they haven't gone yet, but then, things are just very up in the air. So it was hard to deal with all that. And he originally wanted to go enlist in May or June while it was still warm, because he just doesn't like cold weather, and I guess he wanted to start off his military service while it was warm. But then the idea for the yet to come Busan concert came up, and they wanted to do one last concert for Korea where they didn't have to be so restricted, because the Permission to Dance Korea concerts, I think it was good that, Koreans got to see them perform, but then it was like so limited because of the stupid COVID rules that they couldn't make any noise, and then there had to be like very few people there, and, they couldn't react. It was just very restricted. So they felt like, okay, let's just do one last real concert, this Busan one, and then that'll be our last thing. And so Jin said, the group was divided on that because, does Jin want to perform with the whole group, or does he want to leave in the warm months when he wanted to, for his own preference? And I think it was very nice that he decided to do what the fans would have wanted. I guess that's what his train of thought was, like, it would be better if it was the whole group at Busan concert, because if he's not there, then it's going to be not as good for the fans. So he decided to do that, and that's why, the enlistment announcement came the day after. And they didn't want to announce that at the concert because they didn't want anybody upset and crying at the concert, which I'm sure that was a wise thing, because people would have been going crazy in person. And he wasn't planning on releasing any music before enlisting, because originally he was just going to go in May or June, which would have been like right after the Festa dinner where they were saying that they were going on a break for group activities. So there originally wasn't going to be time for him to release anything, but just the fact that they decided to do this Busan concert, that created a window there where he was able to put together this one song with Coldplay. And I think that was really nice for the fans, and probably for him to have like a little bit of closure, just like, let me just make one song before I go, and everybody can enjoy that. And he's going to have his solo album after he comes back. So I do wonder, like, how much does he have put together for that? But, it could just all be in the writing stages for now. He wouldn't want to record a bunch of songs and then, 18 months from now, it's like, okay, that's not where I'm at right now artistically. It's probably better to record everything afterwards. But, I don't know their process, and maybe that is a completely normal amount of time for songs to sit there and not be released yet. So that could totally be a normal thing for them. But yeah, I think either way, he's planning on doing the rest of his album after he comes back. And he was saying that, he's relieved that he can finally talk about it now because all this stuff was going on and you couldn't really say until it was actually announced. And he was calling enlistment the Voldemort word. And if you watch Harry Potter or read Harry Potter, that's like the word that no one wants to say. And that's kind of true. With Army, a lot of Army has treated it like that, to where it's like, okay, let's not even talk about it. Let's just, whatever happens is we'll just wait and see what it is. And so his Weverse Live, he did that, and I think his performance with Coldplay was going to happen later that day. So that's the timing on that. And I did watch that Jin was scheduled to be on the Youngji Lee show, which is a YouTube show. And I assumed this was for the purpose of promoting the astronaut, and maybe there'd be some questions asked, similar to how J-Hope was a guest on IU's show. That was basically like an interview show, and then he was talking about Jack in the Box and everything about that and kind of promoting it. But he didn't really talk about the astronaut while on this show. So I'm kind of wondering, why did he decide to do it? And if you watch the show, I don't know if it's a variety show or a talk show. I don't know what they normally do. I've only seen this one episode that Jin was on, but the concept seems to be Youngji Lee is a young woman who interviews guests, and she's in what looks like a small Korean apartment, and she drinks alcohol. They have snacks. I believe she has a celebrity guest each week, so not exactly sure who else has been on it. I think I've seen that a TXT member was on it earlier in the season. Her apartment, it's very small. I don't know if it's just because they're filming just at the one end of it, or if it's just that small and it takes, all the camera people take up a lot of room in it. But it reminds me of Bruce Willis's apartment on The Fifth Element. It has a pretty small, narrow, futuristic apartment. And Youngji has a big fridge. It seems to be filled with mostly alcohol and some snacks in it. And as a host, she's like a 20-year-old woman, and she's very loud and very boisterous. So I don't know very much about her background. I don't know if she's famous just for this show, or if maybe she was a comedian or an actress before, and that's how the show came about. But, Jin must have heard about the show. He decided to do it, and he shows up, introduces himself as Superstar Jin, and she welcomes him in and offers him this special 58 proof alcohol from China that she had taken a shot of earlier, and which sounds horrible. It sounds like it's one of those hard liquor that just tastes terrible. So Jin, he tries to take his shot, and he said he's not good drinking it all at once. And it's I'm totally there with you, Jin, because I absolutely hate doing shots. It's just too much strong alcohol all at once, and it just tastes disgusting. So that's why I never do shots anymore. And it's just ugh. And it's what this alcohol sounded like, it probably doesn't taste good at all. And so they start doing some shots, and then they do some other drinking of wine, some other things. And Jin says that he's not an avid fan, but her show often shows up in the YouTube algorithm, so he does watch it and he enjoys the show from time to time. And she said they are number one on YouTube. And he said, oh, okay, so you're the BTS of YouTube. And so he seems to know all about the show, and the fact that her bathroom is broken, and details where she went to college. And So I thought that was funny. He's like, "Oh, I'm not a super fan of your show, but I've seen it." It's like he's totally honest about that. And he said he was tired from jogging earlier. So this must have been not too long after he filmed the astronaut MV. And if you've seen it, you know there's a part where he's just like running a lot. And so he's like, his muscles are tired from doing that. And, throughout this show, like she's standing up a lot. She's very animated. And Jin has to stand up too. I guess just to be polite. It's like, okay, one person can't be sitting and the other one standing. So he said that he's not used to filming with third parties. So we know that HYBE created Run BTS to be basically BTS's in-house variety show. And ever since, 5 or 6 years ago, that's the only shows that they do. And it's only recently that they've been going back to some of these variety shows and as guests. And so I think, BTS as a group went to a couple places last year, if you remember, and J-Hope did some other shows for his promotions, and so now Jin is on this show, and he said, he's just not used to filming with other than the HYBE staff, so I can see why it would be different, and especially with this woman's personality. It's just very like over the top, and it's probably something he's not used to. But I think he did a great job. I'm sure he's like not as extroverted as Young-ji, but I think he did great, with her energy, and he was very charming and always had something to say and got along really well with her. And he said that he has less than 10 celebrity friends, so that's a good way to stay grounded. Don't get involved with like too many other celebrities and lose, what it's like to be a regular person. But I've heard that, okay, some celebrities, they just get so, wrapped up in their bubble that they kind of like lose track what it is to be like a regular person. And there's some rock bands I've heard that, okay, after their tour, they will go to a cabin somewhere and just like cook their own food and like do all their own laundry and stuff, just as a way to get back to being grounded. And then I was like, oh, that sounds exactly like In the Soup. And so BTS, they totally are on top of stuff like that. Like they aren't so removed from doing their own cooking or cleaning or, entertaining themselves. And I think we can see that they're definitely not celebrities that are like that are just like their egos are totally out of control, and then they order people around and stuff like that. So I think BTS, we know that they do a good job staying grounded and doing regular things from time to time. And so then Jin says that he considers meeting Young-ji as meeting a celebrity since he's only seen her on YouTube, and then she's very like pleased by that. So they end up drinking a lot of alcohol, and she compliments him. She says, Jin, you're very sincere and kind, and she compliments him, talking about Super Tuna, which everybody loved, and she thanks him for contributing to Korean culture. And he says, oh, just all of BTS, we do this together, and he doesn't want to show a negative side, so like swearing or any bad behaviors, because of a lot of eyes are on them. And so she asks if he would want to do something with less of a burden, and he says, well, this is where we're at, and the members sacrifice their individual needs for the group, and so that helps maintain the team and keep it strong. So I think that's definitely the secret to their success, is that they work as a team. So then they end up playing this game called Holly Golly, and it's kind of a drinking game. Jin keeps winning, so then she has to drink, and Jin had mentioned that he doesn't drink very much since being a trainee, but back then he would black out drinking Bacardi when he was 19. So I think he's just not used to like the amount of alcohol that's being drunk during this show. But I think it's good. I think he has a good time with it and with talking to her. And it seems that like after all the drinking she did, she kind of had to retreat off to the bathroom. She probably got sick and possibly fell asleep. So Jin kind of wraps up the episode on his own. He signs his picture for the wall. It looks like every guest signed something that they put up on her apartment wall. And he decides to wrap up the show and, he acts as the host. I guess the show is called Nothing Much Prepared, which I didn't know that was the name of it, but I think that's what it said in the captions. And that it's the season finale, and, he kind of thanks the fans and ends the show on his own. So very professional. And I guess all this time I had thought that this was a set that was just made to look like an apartment, but I actually think at the end of it, it kind of looked like an actual apartment that they film in, that they just like cram a bunch of people in there and film it at the front end of the apartment. And so that's very interesting concept for a show. It's like, oh, let me do a show like that. All you have to do is have celebrities over and drink with them. I think that's a great concept. So, and one of them is BTS, a member of BTS. I think she should be very proud that she was able to get him as a guest. I think that's a pretty great accomplishment. And so, yeah, Jin ends up never mentioning the astronaut. I guess it was just more for him to, whatever the concept of the show is, I think he was just going along with it and was there for fun and to just be himself. It's not necessarily like promotion and it's like, oh, here's what I'm going to explain about the song. I guess it's not that kind of a show. But it was fun, and I'm glad to see, this more casual side of Jin and him by himself, being solo away from the members. I think it's great to see his personality. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Samsung Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. Check out the merch store with BTS-themed tees, hoodies, and more, linked in the description, as well as on the BTS Happy Hour Facebook page. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.